Thank you. I think this presentation, I don't think I need a mic.
It'll pick you up.
Okay, very well.
Area.
Okay. Hope it doesn't pick wrong signals. So this is very much signal to the presentation of what was covered by the previous presenter on looking at community aspect. While it is more about early warning, this focused more on risk transfer mechanism, which we have been implementing in South Asia. And we also started a new initiative called Aware in a couple of countries in Africa, which we don't have an outputs today, but a framework will be shared from the work what we are doing. So I don't need to explain all this. Last 2 days, we have been seeing the scale of disasters, the economic losses, people exposed to flood, but just the context of what the previous presenters focused in the ground when we are in the field. This is the kind of a situation what we will see, and communities will be moving out quickly, and then the crops are the first priority is to save the life, but important is also the properties and the economic losses. So risk transfer is a key role we need to look at fundamentally on that. Just to go on the outset, because one of the focus of insurance is always credible data and building a long-term record so that the risk pricing structure, whatever we develop, is quite significant and reliable and the consistency. So we have started this process of constructing a huge flood and drought records from various sources, coming from media, from other global sources. One of the largest repository is from EMDAT, DFO, and the flood list, and many other institutions coming at the national level. So we are bringing this national level, regional and international level data sources. And what we have done is basically disaggregating, spatially disaggregate all this information. The challenge is about, we always see in media and EMDAT, it says some district and province or some names, but then how do you bring that into a integrating with the flood hazard map? Because EMDAT does not speak on the spatial extent of the flooding. It's more about reporting from a member states what is happening. So we build up to level three of this data. And what we can see increasingly very clear on twofold. One is it due to climate impact, we are seeing the rising flood event, or do we have a better reporting in place? That could be another reason. We can't directly relate with climate change directly for this reason. But we are looking at more evidences on extreme rainfall. If we could use a national system of extreme rainfall threshold, we could exactly see that whether there is a rising flood event happen. So that analysis and report is in progress. So these are some statistics we produced on that. So this is more on a point data or a media reporting. Now we are constructing a Africa-wide flood and drought monitor. Equally, we know on a seasonal basis, issues of both floods and drought emerges. So this is broadly our framework, thanks to all the space agencies making the data available for this region. Largely, we ingest most of our data in Google asserts wherever the data is not available in Earth Engine. And we have all the algorithms are written in open source code. We'll be opening up very much soon all the scripts and the product. We have some examples already implemented for South Asia. And all this data is currently going into the Africa GeoPortal with the ESRI system that is opened up. We have a partnership called Digital Earth Africa Initiative, where they are building a huge data cube with the Geoscience Australia. So that is something we are doing it. There are two products coming, one on flood and drought. Another product is called Water Accounting Framework, where we look at basin scale resource mapping. So as a sample, given this is a flood event, I mean, you can see the continental products we are producing for entire Africa. So every 8 day, the inundation maps are produced, and then you look at seasonality, the flood frequency, severity, etc. So this is generally the visualization is not quite good in Earth Engine, so you can't see the scale of flooding happening in Africa. But when you start zooming, you will see quite a detailed flood severity that is experiencing from this data. Now we started looking at various validations. Some maps coming from DFO, the IMI we call is the Digital Innovation for Water Secure Africa. In short, it is DIWASA. As you can compare here, the product between C2S, DFO with DIWASA or with the JRC, it doesn't predict any long-term water bodies here. In the JRC, what our mapping system shows very clearly, the storage just changes and how it capturing a fine scale 8-day Moody's product, though it's not very coarse, but the algorithm is quite good enough to produce these kind of a water body. So we could start looking at various data sources to really produce a reliable flood risk information that really helpful for insurance companies or the broader flood risk management every country is looking at. We also look at some of the SAR data as well. We have S1, a different approach we have here. This is a map that is coming from UN OCHA, where they produced for a flood event in Mozambique. And what you can see here, this is an output if someone is using the JRC mask and producing the seasonal flooding. This is what the extent is coming out. But when you produce with our new approach, this is quite familiar. I mean, comparison with the UN OCHA output, what we are seeing. So we have done about 40 global locations based on the charter data, disaster charter data, and the technical report will be published later this year. So that's more about data development, because a lot of people have spoken about mapping algorithms. The first day where we talked about ensemble algorithm, they are very great work. We would be happy to look at those methods as well to test in this region. Now, moving from there, this is, since it's an insurance focus, we are moving into more Asia. I think pretty much it is clear that any agriculture insurance or flood insurance, clearly there is a low penetration of risk insurance program in Asia. One is who takes really the cost of building a robust model, because for reinsurer, it's about producing a good model, and also who bears the cost. Generally, the government doesn't want to cover the cost of setting up a model. And there are different types of flood. We saw in a part in northern India. First, there was a glacier, then there was a dam outburst, then we had extreme rainfall, flash flood. So when you combine all this, one single one-dimensional model will never work. And the communities are going to get different severity of the floods coming from this region. So you can see here how far the flood has gone into these habitats. The floodplains might be somewhere here. So if you look at the type of this house, we don't have really a household level vulnerability data if we have to design a good risk insurance product, and difficult to estimate even a damage data from this system, right? So while country do like India and Nepal do a lot of survey data, but translating that into a household level geospatial integrated is quite complex, right? Unlike the developed countries where you have a systemic data survey available there. Now, what we turning into that, how do we really insure those uninsured communities? That's a focus of doing that, where parametric insurance can play a key role in designing a robust model. And it can be a self-supported commercial model where many of the financial banks provides loans to crop products, where they could link this kind of a simple product with the life insurance institutions working in India. Now, one of the first steps we worked with 6 insurance companies in India is to construct a better data for those pilot region where we are working. The framework is quite simple here. So we have 2 modules available, one looking at the flood hazard model, and the second one is looking at the flood loss module. So I will present quickly about what is these 2 things. And remote sensing is equally playing a big role when it comes to validating those inundation, the crop damages, etc. And we work with different institutions, the insurance companies, the government itself as a macro insurance. They should take a good learning process on that. So we work with Ministry of Agriculture, disaster management, etc. And we haven't gone much with the development banks, which is more to be done with the agri banks, etc. So we have these framework is available. So what it does is, so you'll see the flood model, what we are doing. So it's like a HECRAS, HECHMS, the Delta-RS, WFlow model. There are different models we are applying in different parts of the region when it comes to insurance, developing a flood model. So as a village, you will get a lot of aggregated points for the output of a flood output. Then we have different thresholds. So all these models were set up for 20 to 25 years, where the government has to provide the water level, precipitation, and the discharge data. And once that is developed, then we come with the historical thresholds based on 25 years of model data. And we will also construct the duration of the flooding for that particular point. In simple terms, it looks like any flooding for a village for this particular point, anything less than 9 days will not qualify for any insurance payout. anything by 9 days, 19 days, and 23 days, the payout is provided to those communities. So that's how the flood model work is undertaken, and it has to go into a insurance regulatory authorities approval along with the insurance team. So there is a robust pseudo simulation work is done by Swiss Re and along with the insurance company to certify how this product has to go into a field testing and to the operational aspects of it. The other product we developed is purely based on satellite data, because the modeling data is quite complex. Every tributaries, we may not have the discharge data available or the water level that is measured. So what we do is we take Moody's satellite data, 1 day to 8 day product, which is available at 250 meter. And we usually cover the insurance period between August and October. And we work with number of aggregator partners you will see there. It's a very simple structure we developed, basically coming up with 7 days of inundation for this particular region in Pulcherry. It is in the northern part of Bangladesh. And anything more than 7 days with the percentage of inundated area, about 40% of the inundated area. So this is the threshold we set from the sum insured. So it's a very systematic inundation data built from 2000 year onwards and constructed this inundation product using that. So the sum insured for this is 12,000 taka that was set based on the farmer's input, the labor cost, fertilizer, etc. So that's a simple survey we do that. Now, how do we really explain to the insurance company in terms of the flood damages? So we have another tool we developed called flood loss module, which is parallelly works along with the satellite data. So what we do is first construct this agriculture area. So I'll just move everything into one go here. Yeah. So this is the overall process. So first we need to know what region is having the crop is getting grown and how much flood and depth and duration that is coming from the model data as well as from satellite data. And we develop the damage curve for 4 major crops. Mostly in the monsoon season, we are generally dependent on rice crops there. So this structure, whatever I produced in the flood model, and along with the stage-wise input cost, which is very important because flood can happen at different stages of the season. So we look at different stages, the mission cost, the human labor, seed, fertilizer, pesticides, irrigation, etc. So let's say there are 7 to 8 inputs that goes into the farming practices, and then each of that comes with a cost actually. So that we need to do prior setting up the model itself. And then we produce a SAR-based agriculture map. Here we are using only the Sentinel-1 and the damage flood maps were produced, and in-season stage-wise crop losses were estimated so that the flood duration and depth is constructed along with the crop loss information. So in a brief, how this workflow goes on is first we need a water level from on a daily basis over the 20 years. And then we need the crop extent when it is getting damage, at what stage it is getting affected by the flood levels, and then the information on the field stage of the crop, the remote sensing derived flood extent and duration, and then the flood depth that is coming from our model output, and a little bit more calculating the risk parameter on each stages of the crop. So this is in a way the 7-step model is developed. Again, we implemented in Earth Engine this entire procedure. What you see here, the first stage is about the water level. As I said, we keep monitoring every day at 6 p.m. The government releases this data, and then we compute the stage of the flood duration, how long it is flooded, and we take another 4 minutes. Is it okay? Right. And then we have these stage-wise cost is estimated, as I said, and then these are basically a field level data we need to do through a survey. And then we compute this flood maps, the crop area, and then the damage estimation is computed. So this is more of the entire procedure we are talking about. And largely we are using Earth Engine, and the nationally produced land use land cover from ISRO was used for this particular purpose. So this is just like a mock-up I'm showing you. These are the villages we are running. We have a gauge station established by the local department. And then once the gauge is collected, it sees the different stages when it happens. So most of the flooding was there in the mid-season of the flooding over 51 days. And there is at the end season also comes. So the cost of the insurance payout will be much higher depending on the stage of the flooding where it is happening. And then we pick up this particular point. And then now we look at the total height level of the water that went on. And then we produce this crop map and also the inundated area from this product, right? So given the limited time, the presentation is available in the system. So the critical stage is this one, the step 4, 5, and 6, estimating the hazard information, the depth, and producing this flood damage data, because we know at what stage the crop is damaged, we know the cost, and we estimate the stage, and then the inundated area, and we customize the cost area happening at each village level. So we have to do this procedure for whatever the time period you want to do. But Sentinel-1 is available from 2016 onwards. So we have got some assessments were done based with the community participation. We don't have long data, but still, how do we produce a better product around that? So that's all this work has to be done pre going into the field. And then we have these rollouts are done over 7,000 plus households so far in India and Bangladesh. And there was a payout by the insurance companies of over 150,000. And now there is a scaling is happening over 125,000 households by the local insurance companies. So far we are implementing, and this was also recognized as one of the community level flood insurance payout by the group of Earth Observation in 2020 as an innovation. You would also see this pilots we have done with the consortium of partners with Government of Bangladesh, World Food Program, Oxfam, Green Delta, many other institutions. And the payout was very timely, despite being a COVID. Over 5.4 million taka was transferred by a bank cash, mobile cash system. Bangladesh used a lot of mobile banking. And then this is how this product has been structured. Now, World Food Program is taking this as a labor loss product as well. So there are different products we could develop from this kind of a modeling based data. So very briefly, I would introduce this new solution. I'm talking about the Climber. Aware, there are, I also saw in day one, there was different Aware was also presented. PDC also has an Aware. So we need to define what is this Aware is about. So in brief, we have this massive program started by CGR. It's a $60 million US dollar program with the multi-trust donor. What we call is Climber. There are 6 modules are there: de-risking, policy pathways, the climate security, and I'm leading on the governance for resilience. While information and data is there, there is always the challenges of improving the lead time and what's the role of governance and coordination that happens across the institution, like the colleague in Nepal presented on that. So what we are doing is, this slide is not coming very well, but we have these 4 modules are there, which I will share the brief as well. One is improving the coordination, enabling responsiveness. This is what the Aware system we are developing. Facilitation planning tool. It is mainly at a high level of coordination across the ministry to the local communities. And we are identifying the champions who would able to scale this intervention in the countries we work in: Morocco, Kenya, in Senegal, and also in Guatemala and Philippines, right? So the Aware platform is something looks like this. It has got an effective governance portal. It is fully built in Amazon system. Mockups are getting ready. It has got all the risk knowledge of flood, drought, and these are the 2 risks we are looking at. There is a market data coming from World Food Program, health data from the UNICEF and the health department, nutrition. The idea we are doing here is only looking at the hazard. We don't look at coordination that takes care of the resilience strategy. So here we are looking at all the key parameters that takes care of this early action, early finance, and early warning. So given the limited time, this is how this framework looks like in terms of data collection. Thresholds are getting developed for each regions in 5 countries. And we are creating an online contingency plan, how the institutions have to coordinate, what collaborations have to happen, and when it has to happen, so that a timely action is done. And we have also prepared an early financing module where we look at compounded climate insurance program, contingency funds, etc. Many other ideas are there. But then in brief, this is how this framework looks like. It has got early warning, early triggers, early action, and early financing. So there are some machine learning prediction tools are done for each of those countries in terms of when to bring the Department of Met, sharing this with the hydrology, with agriculture, with rural development. So unless that coordination is not done, the information comes from Met Department, later it never goes off anywhere. And it stuck there, and the highest government will wait until the if agriculture, you go and ask them, they will say, let the disaster management declare the drought. And disaster management will ask Ministry of Agriculture, let them tell whether there is a drought or not. So there is a lot of delays in terms of the coordination mechanism. So this platform has to make that responsibility is very clear. And unless that particular department doesn't respond, the highest level of government will know that there is no action taken on that. So we are bringing more accountabilities and roles and responsibilities on that. We have a website already developed, but it is not ready for public, but we will share with you probably in the next GFP meeting. So there are a lot of reports and publication available here. So that's available in the slides already. So thank you again. Sorry for taking few more minutes.
I see you brought slides for an entire lecture. But thanks again. One quick question. I think that, okay, that's a simple one. Sorry, Roberto, you were there already. That's you in the back. You hadn't had a question today.
Yeah, thanks so much for the presentation. I was wondering if you could speak a bit about the differences that you're seeing in basis risk and administration for the satellite or only product and modeling product. And then if you could just speak a bit about how you how you communicate the differences to risk holders.
Yeah, so most of the parametric are still a basic risk, but if we are really accounting let's say a crop field, we are accounting really the agriculture input cost, and we look at the cost losses across different stages. So what happens is it brings better product rather than being a very generic weather index insurance product. So each of the stages when the insurance structures the product for each month, the payout structures are quite reliable because the losses at the early stage is different than the mid stage of the crop. And then we explain that to the communities as well, what kind of product we are looking at, because they know that risk insurance is not still acceptable for many local communities because they don't believe exactly how it works, because they don't understand how this product is working as well. So more communicating to them. And also that's why we come with two different products. One very intensive model based survey data with the model data, etc. The other one comes with the satellite data. The pricing structures are quite different, and they adjust that in the more in the pricing system of how to bring the flood model results versus because the cost of model data, as I said in the beginning, is quite expensive when you structure the product versus the satellite based, which is quite easier to do. So there are a lot of guidelines we followed and then explained to the communities. That's how the insurance company is linking most of this product in the MFI loans. So whenever the microfinance loan is created, these kind of a simple product is introduced into the loan itself, so that any crop loss damage happens, they get a payout. Globally, we see all the insurance are life insurance. Whenever the farmer take a loan, only the life is covered. They never cover any crop insurance. I mean, particularly in the developing region. But we can chat more on this.
Thanks again.